All this is Dr. Mobeen Sayed from drbeen.com. Welcome to one more show. I hope you had a great weekend. Let's start our discussion. There was a lot of news that is circulating, and I'm sure that majority of that you have already seen, watched, read. I wanted to compile them together in one place so we are on the same page. So let's start our discussion. So these are the gifts for humanity, and here is the agenda for today. Not much drawing, but really just going over the news. So one is the vaccine passports, and the vaccine passport have been proposed and are enforced in some countries from last month. US is now enforcing some parts of it more rigidly. For example, San Francisco became vaccine effective, passport effective from this weekend. Secondly, the FDA has approved the Pfizer vaccine. We're going to talk about that. This is something that was very important for me, and that is the cases in Israel and then the deaths and hospitalization in vaccinated versus not vaccinated, and the news that is continuously the rumors, the news that here there is a lot of cases and deaths amongst vaccinated. So I wanted to see that firsthand with you, that what is the reality there, and form our own opinion. And then another test or a trial, which is usually we have talked less about the COVID ICU bound patients or hospitalized patients. This trial is about the anticoagulant, especially the low molecular weight heparin versus prophylactic dose of full dose versus prophylactic dose. So we're going to talk about that. I thought these were interesting and important discussions to have. So let's start. So here, vaccine passports. This is 26th July. So this is last month. Still, it is interesting. Uh, a few things that are, I think, are interesting is number one, for the UK, we know this, that they have said that till September, the vaccine passport is not needed for high risk areas like nightclubs. However, after September, they would impose the passport. So that is interesting, and I think the reason for that is to give a, I think that to get the people back out and about, and then give them an incentive to say, here is your normal life, and then go ahead and get vaccinated as well. I think that, and I may be wrong. So here, the NHS COVID pass or equivalents in other parts of the UK will also allow fully vaccinated adults to avoid quarantine when they return from most amber list countries. But even if they have the pass, they will have to self isolate on arrival in the UK from France. Now, there is one thing that I liked more: the EU passport, vaccine passport. Again, the having the passport is a good thing, or is it a bad thing? Should they do it? Should they not do it? That is a totally different debate, and I don't have control over that. So because of that, I'm not going to address that part. I don't have control over it. I myself will need to comply if they say you need to have a passport. What I wanted to understand was the difference between various countries' passports or various geographies' passports, and what does it mean. So, EU passport says the certificate can be issued if someone has been vaccinated, recently had a negative COVID test, or recently recovered from the virus. The only thing missing in here is if they had the antibodies or T cells from a past recovery, which is not recent, which may be, let's say, a year ago. That is one piece that is missing. Otherwise, this seems to be much more decent compared to asking for a passport only if somebody is vaccinated. So, this is EU. France. And over the weekend as well, and a few days ago, there were lots of videos going around about France and the vaccine passport, and people going to the grocery stores and not allowed to be shopping there because they didn't have the passport. So I thought I'll look into that as well. So here, this is BBC's article. The pass will be required for all adults from the beginning of August, so that is this month, and include children over the age of 12 from 30th September. So it will continue to become even more strict. In order to obtain the pass, people must have proof they are fully vaccinated, recently tested negative, or recently recovered from the virus, similar as the EU. Israel. Israel, it requires people to show proof of either vaccination or having recently had the virus. So, recent proof of vaccination or had the virus, I think they do not have not tested negative. They don't have that part in here. Plus, they do not have, like other countries, the T detect like passport or a check box, and others don't have it either. I think these should be there, but they don't. After infection rate declined, authorities decided to end the scheme and now they are starting it again. The green pass will only allow those over the age of 12 who are vaccinated, recovered from COVID-19, or who present a negative test. So here, who present a negative test result to attend large events and enter certain public spaces. So tell me this. So this is here. The China have has a QR code, and the QR code is either green or yellow based on your own reporting of your status, and based on that then you can be allowed to enter some place or not. US, I think US is slowly now catching up to the virus vaccine passports. This is the San Francisco news. This was, so I went over to, I went halfway to San Francisco, near Oklahoma, sorry, Oakland, and the restaurant that where we went, they did not have any imposition for the vaccine passport. But it seems like San Francisco is now requiring vaccine passport for indoor activities. So I think this is what is happening. The additional uh, concepts now attached to this one: number one, the air travel and the vaccine passport with that, and two, air travel with domestic vaccine passport. So far, CDC has said that there is a guidance for the vaccine or vaccinated versus not vaccinated when they are traveling. They haven't yet said they all need to have vaccinated for domestic travel as well, but I think it would be coming soon as well. Then the second part of our discussion, that is the, and I want to go back to the vaccine passport. So I'm not touching the administrative side or the political side or such areas, but what do you think about that? Have you had a chance to show your passport, or uh, how was, if you needed to show the passport, how was the rules, how was the interaction like? So with this, continuing, this is the FDA approves the first COVID-19 vaccine. I think that this approval is based on two things. There may be one primary aspect to approve something because some of us have had this complaint or objection that the vaccines are not really approved, they are only authorized, and because of that, they are, it is a it is a proof that the vaccines are not yet good vaccines, or or correctly tested yet, or fully tested, or have a full confidence in them. So I think there is a uh, political part in here where FDA may have gone ahead and said, you know what, we're going to approve it so that people cannot say that anymore. And then there may be that this is just a normal process and they have seen enough data about the Pfizer vaccine to say, okay, we are going to approve it. If that is the case, you I think in either way, you would probably see now Moderna getting approved and Johnson and Johnson getting approved as well. I just hope that Novavax comes into this play as well and gets their authorization. Looks like they are slowly getting out of the ring. So here, today, the US Food and Drug Administration approved the first COVID-19 vaccine. The vaccine has been known as Pfizer-BioNTech COVID vaccine, but it will be called now Comirnaty. Comirnaty for the prevention of COVID-19. The vaccine also continues to be available under emergency use authorization, so there is an overlap. EUA still continues while they attach the approval to it, including for individuals 12 through 15 years of age. So the Comirnaty or the full approval is for 16 years of age and above. For 12 years to 15 years, it is still under emergency use authorization. And the third dose, which is the booster dose, is also in EUA. I still feel that using the same dose as a booster dose is not that productive, other than keeping an immune system continuously activated, maybe to ward off some risk. But I don't see otherwise why a third booster dose from a similarly structured vaccine might be useful. And if for a second we consider that maybe the vaccines are not that effective and that is why we're looking for boosters, then why not rethink the vaccine's structure, the molecule, the administrative mechanism, and maybe the vaccine itself. So there may be more thinking to be done instead of just saying keep using the same vaccine and keep giving more boosters. So this is a milestone, of course. Yes, it is a milestone. Comirnaty contains messenger RNA. So here, this was interesting. Messenger RNA, we all know about that. We've talked a lot about this. They say here the mRNA in Comirnaty is only present in the body of for a short time and is not incorporated into, nor does it alter an individual's genetic material. So you know that there have been lots of rumors about that. Comirnaty has the same formulation as the EUA vaccine and is administered as a series of 2 doses 3 weeks apart. We know about that as well. So this, and then finally, they said that we have based our review and approval upon 20,000 cases of vaccine, vaccinations, and then the safety data about it. And this is just a review. Based on the results from the clinical trials, the vaccine was 91% effective and so on. So this is the vaccine approval. What do you think? Is this approval called for? Was it necessary? Not necessary? Is it correctly done? I'll give you my opinion as well, and I may be wrong. I think after so many of the doses that have been administered, it is actually fine to approve it. And I think it will be fine to approve Moderna as well. J&J, I'm still not very much warm on, because I feel that J&J needs to be properly categorized for who should use it before we say we should approve this. And I'm sad that Novavax is still not in the play. So this is the FDA's approval. This related to the last topic before the FDA approval, domestic travel during COVID-19. So this is CDC August 20. Delay travel until you are fully vaccinated. So again, this is not a mandate. They're not saying you must do this, but they are saying delay travel until you are fully vaccinated. It may be that this sentence tomorrow could become a regulation as well. If you're not fully vaccinated and must travel, follow CDC's recommendations. Recommendations are down here. During travel, wear a mask. Then follow all state and local recommendations. In areas with high number of COVID-19, consider wearing a mask in crowded outdoors, and so on. After travel, self-monitor for COVID-19 symptoms. Isolate and get tested if you develop symptoms. Follow all state and local recommendations, and so on. So this is the recommendation table. Interesting. I think we might soon see some more restrictions on the domestic travel as well. We'll see. And then finally here, this is something that I wanted to look at it together. I hope I can refresh it without breaking the translation. So let's see, refresh. And I'm using Google Translate. English. All right, so this is Israel's data. This is their dashboard. David from Israel, my friend David, who's here in San Jose, he sent me this link. I love it. There is a lot of data over here. Still, I think that as the data is translated, some parts or some messages become difficult to interpret. So if I make a mistake in interpreting, and if you know Hebrew, please put the correct message in the comments. So let's start from here. Israel, about 9.3 million people. Vaccinated, one dose, 5.9 million, two doses, 5.4 million. So slightly more than half. And then third dose, booster dose, 1.5 million. So they are giving a booster dose and 1.5 million. So about 60% folks have double two doses. That means there is a 40% population that still is not vaccinated at all. And that means that that population is open for infection and vaccinated people as well. The reason that I wanted to see this was I had been hearing these rumors, and then people were just picking up messages and tweeting them out saying vaccines have failed and we are in trouble, and Israel has proven that the vaccines have failed, and until they use ivermectin, they cannot come out of it. So, one, I am a proponent of ivermectin, and I believe in vaccines as well. And I think some people find this combination not the best for them. But, anyways, ivermectin should be used as a bridge. But what I wanted to understand was really what is the situation. So let's see here. And I'm trying to not make it bigger because it might break. Uh, Here, active patients. So this is the rate per 100,000. This is cases. Let me see if I can make it big without breaking the translation part of it. Okay, so I hope you can see it. Uh, so, active cases. If you see here, this is 90 plus. 2,483, I believe, per 100,000 unvaccinated. Partially vaccinated, that is one dose, 560. Fully vaccinated, 625. The fully vaccinated are those who may have been vaccinated first, and that is how they got the second dose, plus when they got vaccinated first, they may have comorbidities and age as well as a factor. However, 2483 versus 624, this is cases. We'll look into the hospitalizations and deaths in a second. So I'm going to start from this side now. 12 to 15 years of age. Unvaccinated 1089, and then fully vaccinated 121 per 100,000 people. So 16 to 19, 1049 versus 499. So almost half. This is almost 10 times. This is about half. This is again about 968 and 746. Almost negligible difference. Not negligible, but still very close. And is that because the youngsters are, going out, mixing, mingling, talking, or some other reason? Or meaning maybe in this age group the vaccine is not as effective. But again, please realize this is cases. The interesting thing to see will be hospitalization and death. Okay, so here 30 to 39, about 1200 and 766. 41,743. So that is the cases. Almost 40/60 is their breakdown. Now, if you see here, severely ill, this one, second box, severely ill, here, if you put your mouse cursor on this one, this is Sunday 22nd August. Unvaccinated who are severely ill are 232, partially vaccinated 49, fully vaccinated 20. So 20 versus 232. So more than 10 times the difference. Let's see more days as well, just not one. Let's say Saturday. Saturday, 215 versus 22. This is serious illness. So again, about 10x the difference. This is Friday, 219 versus 21, 10 times. I'm going to go here. Let's say Monday, 16, 171 versus 21. So the unvaccinated getting infected were actually less, and their numbers are increasing. The numbers on the vaccinated side are pretty stable since this time, about August 9 and onwards, the ninth month. They used to be less here. So, for example, if I go to seventh month, the fully vaccinated and seriously ill were only four. I think it is per 100,000. And nowadays, fully vaccinated and seriously ill, out of 100,000, the rate is 20. So it has increased by 5 times. Now, the unfortunate, the deaths, I hope that data I can find. So if I go to under 60, so this data that you saw was 60 plus. This is now under 60. So under 60, fully vaccinated 1.5, unvaccinated 3.6. So there generally is a lower rate. And then the difference between them is almost 2x. If I go here to the early part, 0.2 to 0.8. So I think generally the delta would have been there in last month as well. It seems like maybe the society was opened more and people were going about their business, maybe not wearing masks, and that kind of created Delta's opportunity to spread faster. So this is the under 16. So if I go to general population, this is Sunday, for example, unvaccinated 314, fully vaccinated 338. What I do not know is what this number actually represents. So is this the partially vaccinated 13? I don't know what this represents, because if you look at the severe number of patients are difficult for 100K patients. I think this is the absolute number versus 100,000. I'm going to stay to this side, the side that actually I can interpret. And if you know Hebrew, I'm going to request David as well to help me with this. But this is the seriously ill. Now, if we go here, daily verified immunization, um, wanted to see the deaths. So I'm going to reduce the size a little bit to see if I can read it better. So segmentation of various indices according to the age. Last month verified. What I do not know is verified in terms of cases, I guess. But I think there's no connection with the vaccine, so I'm going to leave this chart. Then it is investigate morbidity in light of incidence and immunization. So here, cumulative percentage of vaccination, so that is a percentage, which in this chart's life, it starts from 55 or 56% to 58%. Not a lot of difference in vaccination. And then verified, investigate morbidity in light of incidence. So is this the verified cases maybe? So again, I don't want to waste your time if I cannot understand it. Um, then continuing on, this is interesting here, this one. What they're showing here is, okay, so This one is, so I made it so big that it just changed. So give me a second. This is the booster. So dose 3. So the way to look at this is the following. The top bar here, this is age 90 plus. And then if you see here, the dark green is age 90 plus who have only gotten one vaccine dose or who have one vaccine dose. So 94.1% have at least one vaccine dose. 90.6% have two vaccine doses. And then 67% of this whole age group now has a booster as well. So these blue lines are boosters. And as you can see, the boosters are all the way down to 16 to 19 as well. So 90 years, they have gotten the largest number of boosters. Maybe the population size in that age is smaller as well. Then here 72%, 80 to 89, 72% have the booster. 70 to 79, 76%, 60%, 39%, 40 to 49 is 14% boosters, 30 to 39, 2.1% boosters, then 0.4 and so on. So this is boosters. That's very interesting for me to see that they are actually going fast on boosters as well. I still want to understand the number of deaths. An unfortunate thing, but it is an important metric. Investigate morbidity in light of incidents. Cumulate, I can't read that part. Um, Fully vaccinated, what is this? Active patients. So these are patients seriously ill. So if I look at 100,000 per 100,000 seriously ill, so if I go here, this is, I think, the number that we saw before, 90 plus seriously ill. 562 per 100,000 are unvaccinated, and 50 or 49 per 100,000 are fully vaccinated and 90 plus age. That is interesting for me. Uh, in the age group of 80 to 89, unvaccinated are 408. Again, I think it says over here at rate per 100K. So 408 versus 45, which is again 10 times the difference. Here, 70 to 79, 290 versus for fully vaccinated 18.3. And so this was seriously ill. So really good numbers for seriously ill. 60 to 69, 114 versus 11. 50 to 59, 53 versus 5.7. And 40 to 49, 28 versus 1. So these numbers are good for serious disease. Now, I still want to understand where there may be data for death, severe number of patients per 100,000. Daily verified immunization. So I think I should leave it. I'm now just wasting your time. I do not know exactly where to find the data for death. So I'm going to stop and let's see here. This is another worldometer. We've been using this for some time. I found the Israel's dashboard much more interesting and informative, of course. So here, this is the daily new cases. What I wanted to understand in very rough, non-scientific look at this data. What I wanted to understand was, could we see that this peak in how much correlation to death is there? And you know that that is going to be a difficult one unless someone who has the actual data to say on this date, following folks became hospitalized, out of them, following folks unfortunately passed away. So I don't have that data. So I'm going to do a non scientific analysis. So you can totally dismiss that. So let's see for a second. Here, a month ago, the cases. So let's say, let's go to July 20. So July 20, the cases were on that date 1491. And you know what I'm going to do is actually not scientific, that I'm going to go a month later to see the relationship to death. So 1491 here, July 20, and if I go to August 20, August 20, so 7. So if I go to, let's say, August 22, when there were 55 folks, and then I go to July 22, so 1434 to, what was the August 22 number? So 1400 and then 55 deaths. If there is any relationship, I think that this is not scientific. So please forgive me for using your time and still doing an unscientific analysis. And here, let's say we see a similar number, 1400 and something. Here, December 13 is the closest. So the December 13, about 1400. And if I go to January 13th, January 1347, almost the same number. So there is a, from worldometer, I think we do not have the best way to figure it out. But it, as you can see, there is a peak now. What I read in various articles was that majority of the cases are actually in the unvaccinated. And that would actually be, so unvaccinated mostly are going to be younger. Vaccinated are going to include folks at risk as well. So if we have folks at risk still presenting with less severe cases and less deaths, then the vaccines are effective. This is Al Jazeera's article, interesting article to look at. This is now the next one, next set of our next news for today. COVID antibody test offered to public for the first time. So I really love this about UK, Britain, that they continue to break ground for how to move forward. So here, this I think it is very decent. The government scheme will so this is 1 day ago. The government scheme will offer tests to thousands of adults each day. Anyone over 18 will be able to opt in when having a PCR test from Tuesday. Of those who test positive, up to 8,000 will be sent to home antibody tests. So if I tested positive, PCR positive, 8,000 per day, these folks will be sent to kits for antibody test. So I'll be sent two kits. One of those kit will have to be tested as soon as possible, so that if they want to check how fast my antibodies are being produced, or if I was already infected and I got PCR positive again, then my antibodies will go up very fast. If I was not infected before and I get PCR positive, it is possible that my antibodies will ramp up slowly. So the first one is as soon as possible. And then the second one is 28 days later, where we are sure that the antibodies will be high up, regardless of this being the first infection or the reinfection. So I think this is very, very cool that they're doing. This would actually tell us, I think this should have been open to anyone, not just the people with the PCR. Anyone should have been able to stop at a stall and say, I want to test my antibodies. And I wish that this was in the US as well. So I am commenting on the UK while my own country is not really that ahead of this. Okay, so now the last part of the news today, which is very interesting for me. This is a uh, link to various uh, blood thinners and endothelial protective agents. So blood thinners, mostly the heparin-like uh, drugs. What they do is they reduce the clotting inside the blood vessels, and then they help the blood vessel. So there are various drugs and there are trials going on to see which drug, what dose works better for ICU patients. And I thought this was worthy of looking at. Although this site called Abstract Medical Congress Online, it is a horrible way of presenting the presentation. So look how they done it. You have to click here to say click to view, and now it is going to show all the pages of this presentation, and then you click one page at a time, you see that, then you close it, or unless I am just idiot, so you close this, then you go to the next page, you see it, you close that, and you continue doing that. So uh, here I believe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so it is going in rows. Here is the background, what they were trying to figure out. What they wanted to understand was venous thrombosis, so that is clotting inside the veins, versus arterial thrombosis, that is clotting inside the arteries, are the major issues. Now, why do we differentiate between them? Not only the composition of the clot could be different, and the impact on the blood vessel could be different, where does the clot end up and get stuck is also going to be different. So if I can draw that quickly. So imagine what happens is, from the right heart, blood comes out and goes to lungs. From the lungs, the blood comes back to the left heart. From the left heart, blood goes to head and neck, brain areas. This is not the best brain I drew. So brain plus the body, the rest of the body, excluding the lungs. And then from there it goes back. Now this side, which brings the blood out from the heart, is called arterial side. And the side that brings the blood back to the heart is the venous side. Arteries, if they get a clot, the problem is that that clot is going to get lodged at a smaller point, and some tissue um, that is being nourished by that blood, that tissue is going to die. So arterial clotting usually causes, for example, it can cause a stroke if the clot gets stuck in a artery going to the brain, or in another tissue, in the heart itself, the cardiac supply. On the other hand, venous clot, they tend to become stuck in the veins of the legs, or venous clots can go and end up in the lungs. Lungs act as a big filter to catch the venous plugs, or the plugs or the clots that are coming back from the veins. These clots would end up in the heart, from there to the lungs. Now lungs are a filtering system, so they are actually oxygenation system, but they're a huge sponge. So the clot would get stuck in there. Most of the time, the clot that gets stuck in the lungs can cause very small um, issue, but sometimes it can cause death as well if we have a saddle clot and so on. So, meaning venous clot could be dangerous, but many times they get stuck in the legs. Arterial clots can cause heart attacks and strokes. Venous clots can cause sudden cardiac death, but many times just the leg cramps and leg clots. Now, with this, in case of COVID, clotting is an indicator that there is damage going on inside the blood vessels. So the damage, if we can control it, that is for a better outcome. So the question that you're going to see in the study is the following. The question is that if somebody is serious, should we give them a prophylaxis dose of heparin, or it is also called intermediate dose, or should we give them a full dose of low molecular weight heparin? That was the question. And the answer that they have found is that full dose of low molecular weight heparin has been much better than prophylactic dose or intermediate dose. So let me very quickly show you this data here. So if I go here to this data, so this here, primary efficacy outcome at day 30 post randomization number is 253. So here is the therapeutic dose. Here is the standard dose. So the standard dose is the prophylactic dose or intermediate dose. Therapeutic dose is what they had decided. And if you see here, composite VTE, venous thromboembolism, and ATE, which is arterial thromboembolism, and ACM is all cause mortality. What is the basic thing to see here? See this. This is the 52 out of 124 versus 37 out of 129 that had the event, and the risk reduction is 0.68%. And they have given the rest of the data as well. And the p values are all significant as well. So what is the outcome? The outcome is in the ICU using full dose of low molecular weight heparin instead of prophylaxis or intermediate dose is better for the survival of the patient. So this is this last part of our discussion. And then I also have a link here if you wanted to learn a little more about the relative risk reduction. So thank you very much for your time. Please do me a favor. It's still 6:41, 41 minutes. Please do me a favor. Please like, subscribe, and share. And if you would like to support this work, there are links in the description. You can buy me a coffee, or you can be a patron, or you can use PayPal to support this. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in 5 minutes.